This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 16.
Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Lynn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club. Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. Now, I have been stewing on this message for a while. It's actually something I've written about, so I'm kind of jiving off of that. And it's the idea of how to get yourself ready for change, for transition, for improving and stepping into whatever the next stage of your life looks like. And this is coming hot on the heels of the solar eclipse, which we saw yesterday in Ohio. It was beautiful, so stunning, so cool. I can see why early peoples would have been like, oh my God, what is happening? Because it was wild. Like, it was dark in the middle of the day. I've never seen anything like it, but it was so, so cool. So it is a season of transitions, and I feel like the eclipse is a good place to start that. Also, if you're watching this, you'll notice I'm a little bit more casual than normal because I just finished up the launch for my 6-week program, Emotional Alchemy. And I have 5 people in, 6 possibly. We're still kind of going back and forth to see if she can sneak in after doors have closed because our first coaching call is tomorrow. So I just had this huge output of energy from launching and from getting the course materials together and ready. And it's just been very exciting. So that's why I'm feeling like this is a good time to talk about this topic, because a lot of us, I think, hold ourselves back because we think that we need to be ready to start things. And I want to talk in this episode about why that may or may not necessarily be the case. So something that a lot of very influential people and gurus on the internet say is start before you're ready. And I received this advice as well. And this never really sat well with me because as a highly sensitive person, I feel like I don't know how to do things before I'm ready. Like, if I'm not ready, I'm just not going to do it. It's a wonderful platitude. It's very pithy, but what does it actually mean? And how do you apply this idea, start before you're ready? When very smart and successful people say start before you're ready, what they mean is start before you feel comfortable. It's impossible to feel the confidence and inherent comfort you get from practicing and doing something for a long time if you've never done it before. This makes perfect sense. What doesn't make sense is starting before you feel prepared and committed. These are 2 ways that you actually can help yourself feel ready, even if you're not feeling comfortable. And this has always been the sticking point for me as a highly sensitive person, because one of the hallmarks of an HSP, highly sensitive person, is that we look first before we leap. We are action takers, but we don't dive into things head first and hope that things will work out. We excel as highly sensitive people at weighing options, at looking at what other people are doing, at wrapping our heads around new possibilities, and then wading into something new, feeling pretty competent or pretty confident before we get started. There are some perks to that deep processing that we tend to do about absolutely everything, and this is one of them. Most HSPs I know, including myself, are probably simmering on something for way longer than other people think that we should, or other people simmer on things or process things. But when we do leap, we tend to make serious progress fast because we've done all of the contemplation, we've done the preparation in our minds beforehand. And what really matters is not making yourself feel comfortable necessarily, but rather helping yourself feel committed and prepared enough to make that leap without endlessly looping on how to do it right or how to do it best. If you are wondering about this, refer to my episode on how to overcome perfectionism, because that is definitely related to this topic. So this is important for us because a lot of us highly sensitive people, especially post-pandemic, especially going into spring, for instance, many of us are in the Northern Hemisphere in North America, and we're going into spring. And this is a great time to start fresh things. This is a season of new beginnings. And sometimes we can hold ourselves up because we feel like we have to wait until we're 100% confident and comfortable with something to get started. And we can't do that if we've never done it before. Very rarely can we do that. We can have self-confidence that we are capable of doing something. We can have confidence that we can figure it out, but we can't necessarily have confidence that it's going to go perfectly because we don't know that. We don't have that kind of certainty. And I wasn't prepared to talk about this today, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because I think it's relevant to this conversation. And it's the 5 stages of change. Anytime there's a change, and this is a psychological concept, you go through 5 stages. The first one is pre-contemplation. This is when you're starting to just like plant the seeds of a new idea and you're starting to think, could this be possible for me? I wonder what that looks like. What do I even want here? What would I like this to feel like? Or what would I like this to look like? So say you're on a weight loss journey, for instance, or an exercise journey. How do you want to feel at the other end of that? If you're starting a business or growing a business, how would you like to feel at the end of whatever the change is going to be? For me, it was, how do I want to feel when I'm showing up for my 6-week program? And what do I want my clients to get out of this at the end of it? It's kind of a visioning process, this pre-contemplation. Then you get into contemplation, which is, okay, how do I actually make this happen? So you have a vision, you have this idea, this little kernel that you're now ready to add some fertilizer to, and you're ready to help it grow. And it's the idea of, how do I make this happen? What are the steps? What do I need to do in order to make my vision come true? Which brings us to our third part, which is preparation. So in the contemplation phase, this is often where we actually commit to something or decide that we don't want to do it and toss it behind us and move on to the next thing. But if you are actually committed to doing something and you're like, yes, I am willing to figure this out, then you move into stage 3, which is preparation. And preparation is when you actually start to move the puzzle pieces into place so that you can start to take action. This might be doing some research and making a plan. This is really good for highly sensitive people, especially if you also have ADHD or if you also have a spectrum disorder. It can be really, really good to come up with your plan of action in advance so that you're not just floundering in the middle and then you lose focus and you're like, well, I'm off doing this other thing, squirrel moment. It might also mean getting your support system intact so that as you start moving forward with your plans, you have the people around you who are on board. You have the people who are going to cheerlead you. You have the people who are going to challenge you. You have the people who are going to give you additional information when you need it. And it might involve doing a little bit of prep work as far as gathering materials or gathering information, maybe doing a little bit of research or a little bit of learning before you move forward. The caveat, of course, again with perfectionism, is not to do so much research that it turns into procrastination, procrasti-learning, procrasti-researching, procrasti-cleaning, whatever it is, but just to get enough information in this preparation stage that you can start to take action. And then when you have prepared, this is how you become ready, then you can move into stage 4, which is actually acting on the thing that you want to do. So this means you actually launch the business, you make a Facebook post, you go out and have conversations with people and tell them what you're doing. You change your diet after you've gathered all of the correct foods. So if your preparation stage is cleaning out your cupboards, getting the right foods, and making a meal plan, then your action is actually making the meals. It's sitting down with your family at the time that you've designated. It's making sure that you have snacks as backup or that you have a plan if something comes up at work or when you're out having a social event and there's something unexpected that happens. If you're planning all of those things in advance, when you act on them, when you make the food, when you eat the food, when you're out with others, then it's not as tricky to take the action and for things to go smoothly. And then after you take the action, you evaluate. You see, did it go the way that I wanted? Did I like that action? Do I need to make some tweaks? What worked? What didn't work? What do I want to do differently? I love this technique because it really aligns well with the coaching technique that I use, which relates to how our thoughts about situations create our feelings, which cause our actions, which then create the results that we have in our lives. The evaluation stage is really looking at the results of the actions you've taken and deciding, does this work for me or do I need to make a shift? So how this relates to you in this instance is that Making sure that you're actually going through the commitment stage and the preparation stage before you start acting is really where the readiness comes from. It's very difficult to feel comfortable when you're trying something new, and you might have some nerves, you might have some fears, you might have some anxieties, but you can do it anyway. And that's what they mean by starting before you're ready. Trying it messy, being willing to make mistakes. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but there are 3 ways that you can do this in addition to getting yourself through the 5 stages of change so that you can actually help yourself feel ready. Number 1 is to commit to learning and experimenting. And this goes back to that contemplation stage. When you commit to the process and you commit to making mistakes, you commit to failing, you commit to trying things out and seeing if they work and not necessarily being attached to the results, that is one of the key signs that you are ready and the key signs that you're going to be successful. A hallmark of having high sensitivity is that we love to learn new things. We love it. We crave topics that feel rich and deep to us so that we can dig in. We can learn lots of different perspectives and constantly find new insights and new nuances. For instance, I have loved to dance since I was a little kid, and any styles are absolutely fascinating to me. Like if you scroll through my YouTube shorts or my Instagram feed, I would say 60% of it is like dance videos. So one year for Christmas, my fiance Mark got us a Groupon ballroom dance package so we could learn some ballroom dance together. And this is one of my all-time favorite gifts I have ever received. So we started going to salsa classes once a week. And since we were already in the studio, we just stayed for the other styles that they were teaching right after salsa. So we ended up learning rumba, cha-cha, East Coast swing, and hustle, which is one of my favorites. We just kind of picked up whatever they had on offer. Salsa was our gateway, and we were excited to learn new styles that came after that. The more styles we learned, the better we became overall at any of the styles we were dancing. So if you think back to anything new that you've learned, a new sport, maybe it's a crafty skill or a new kind of relationship, maybe parenthood. Thinking back to that, if you have kids, that was definitely a new experience that you could not have prepared for, or you couldn't have felt confident about necessarily before you went into it, but you could prepare for it. There are endless ways to go about doing the thing. So you probably looked for a way that made sense to you. You learned the basics. Then you started to refine your knowledge or your technique by looking at paths other people were taking. This is all part of that preparation stage. You were ready to dive in because you took that love of learning that you as a highly sensitive person just find so easy and so fun and so fulfilling, and you went into the new situation just excited to learn and try new things. Now, think about that when you go into something just excited to learn, excited to maybe fall on your face a few times, or as one of my coaching mentees said today, just to sit in the suck, just enjoying the process of things sucking for a little while. Then you get excited, you get curious, you're open. This is kind of what's known as beginner's mind, that when you start out something new, you don't necessarily know what you don't know, so you're just curious and open to everything. And this is actually a concept that people aspire to. They want to have that beginner's mind so that they can be open and curious to new things. Now think about that way of approaching something versus another time when you've tried something new and then you put a ton of pressure on yourself to be absolutely the best right away. You compare yourself to people who are way further ahead than you. And then you think, if I'm not doing that right now, then I've done something wrong and I should just give up. You only try things that you already know how to do, or maybe you're getting stuck in analysis paralysis, for instance. So compare these 2 ways. In the one, you're open and you're curious. In the other, you put pressure on yourself. You feel like you already have to do things. You have to play it safe, and then you get stuck in decision fatigue. Which one would you rather do? I know for me, I have always had more success when I have leaned into committing to the process of experimenting and learning. When you commit to the process, the journey is the whole point, not the destination. So that's number 1, committing to learning and experimenting. Number 2 is do what you need to do to feel prepared. And again, this goes back to step 3 of the 5 stages of change. There are many, many ways to prepare for something, just as there are people under the sun. There are about 8 billion of us at this count in 2024, and every single one of us is doing things differently. So in order to prepare, you could read a bunch of books and articles. You could listen to podcasts. You could talk to people who have done the thing that you want to do. You can find a sample or a cheap version to practice. You can join a community of people who will hold you accountable. Maybe you hire a coach or a mentor or a teacher who can show you the ropes so that you don't have to do everything yourself. And knowing you have high sensitivity, you'll probably do a combination of all of those things depending on what your learning style is and what really lights you up. And that is wonderful. I am all for that. Take in a lot of information and put it all together, take the bits that resonate with you and turn them into something that's unique to you. However, the key is to decide what you're going to do to prepare and when you're done with your preparation. What do you need to do to get started and how will you get there? And by getting started, I mean taking action. Now, it's easy and tempting, so tempting to stay in that research mode forever and to procrastinate and procrastinate research. Learning is fun and easy for you, as we mentioned in the last step. So in an effort to stay comfortable, maybe you don't let yourself get to the preparation stage. Maybe you stay in the research phase and you don't let yourself actually feel prepared enough to take the action. This is the kind of chronic program and learning style where you just feel like, I have to get this certification. I have to get that certification. I need to take this lesson. I need to pay for that program, and then I'll be ready. This is not true. You can actually prepare, and when you decide in advance how much preparation you need, then you don't have to go beyond the point of diminishing returns where you're not taking action at all. Now, here's what it looks like to prepare and decide in advance how much time you want to prepare. It could mean knowing the time and financial costs it would take to do the thing. So this is doing time budgeting and financial budgeting. It could mean learning the basic techniques or the terminology of something so that you can get started. For instance, I have bought so many fancy launching programs, and I learned just enough of the basics to kind of put it together for myself. Now, would I probably benefit from having a very fleshed out 100% complete launching strategy like all the programs say? Yeah, I probably would. But that has slowed me down from actually just offering you the thing that I have made that I am really excited about, that I created just for you. So if I had stuck to getting the launch sequence perfect for my new 6-week course, I probably never would have launched it in the first place, and I wouldn't be already helping the 5, maybe 6 people who are already in it. This is what we mean by doing it a little bit messy, doing it before you feel comfortable, but learning just enough so that you can get started. This is also what's known as just-in-time learning, not worrying about trying to get all of the information before you can ever apply it, but just learning the information you need to take the next step. So preparation and determining how much preparation to do might also include translating something you already know how to do into a new context. So for instance, in my dance technique, I had not learned how to do ballroom dance, but I had learned how to do new sports before. For instance, I had never done yoga until I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I could translate that kind of experience of learning something new, taking it slow, taking it step by step, into the process of learning to dance. You could find a friend or a group to keep you motivated. If you have heard of Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies, it describes the 4 motivation styles that people tend to have, and it can be combinations of internally or externally motivated. The majority of people, according to her study, that 63% of people are motivated by external people. So that means that you're much more motivated if you have a running buddy, if you have a workout buddy, if you hire a personal trainer, if you hire a coach to help you stay motivated and keep cheerleading you and keep challenging you every step of the way, you're much more likely to do something. So if it helps you to get someone on board, grab a teammate, find someone to do it with you as part of your preparation stage. This could also mean hiring someone to train you or teach you the ropes fast. And once you know the basics of what you need to feel prepared, then it's time to move into step 4, which is action. So going back to my ballroom dance example, I learned the new skill I love because I had someone to do it with me, my fiance. I had a beginner's class for people with 0 previous experience, which was crucial. And we bought an inexpensive package of classes to make it a no-brainer to keep showing up week after week after week. And then, of course, we had the same instructor, Russ, who is absolutely fantastic. And because we built that relationship and that rapport with him, and he could track our progress over time, it made it so much easier to go and see that friendly face and keep learning from him over and over again. If I had endlessly searched for the perfect class and done every YouTube tutorial online, we might never have actually made it to the dance studio. If I had gone alone the first time, I would have been probably a little shy and maybe intimidated to dance with a stranger. Now, this was 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't know if that would be the case now, but at the time, it definitely would have slowed me down to go by myself. Know yourself and look for ways to bypass your blocks so you can make the progress easy and fun. And that's how feeling prepared means knowing what baby steps to take so that you can actually make progress and do it so that you feel ready. And then number 3 is to find ways to stretch your comfort zone. Many people feel comfortable diving into things and just figuring them out as they go, not knowing anything before they get started. Maybe that feels exhilarating. I don't know why it is so hard to say this word. Maybe that feels exhilarating and fun to some, especially if you're a high sensation seeker. But for most just regular, highly sensitive people, diving in head first is the quickest way to make us freeze up or run back to our couch to turn on Netflix. You will definitely be uncomfortable at times as you learn and practice new things, but that's part of the game and that's part of the process. Not knowing how much discomfort you can take while still moving forward is the sweet spot to becoming ready. So maybe you watch a YouTube video or do an online class before you dive into a group environment with people who somehow look like effortless and poised. And I'm looking at you, yoga class, with people who somehow don't sweat. Like I am the sweatiest person in a yoga class. I don't know how people don't sweat. It could mean finding a friend to try something for you, finding a friend to try something with you for the first time. Ooh, this post-launch energy. I have been known to keep someone on the phone with me on the way to something new just for the company and the moral support. These days, I see just as many people who are texting when they're waiting for something new. That could be an easy way for you to get moral support, just a step in the door so that you can do something if you need to do it by yourself. It could be coming up with an action plan and an escape route for any fears that might be coming up. So you might walk into a yoga studio, for instance, if you've never done it before, and say, I'm going to grab a spot in the back and I'm going to stay for 5 minutes. And if it's too scary after 5 minutes, I'm going to sneak out the back and no one will be the wiser. This might be your escape route. You could try this if you want to go to more social events. I have a few social events that I want to try out with new groups of people that I've never done before. And you better believe I have my escape routes planned. Like, how do I tell people I need to leave? How can I just search for the exits? What do my signals look like so that I know that I'm reaching my threshold for stimulation and I'm ready to take a break or a pause, or I'm ready to just leave altogether? And again, you can hire a private instructor or a coach so you get that individual attention from someone who's focused on you and your learning process the entire time. Starting out as a beginner gave me and my fiance Mark an easy way to try something completely new. And as we learned the basics of ballroom dancing, the intermediate classes suddenly became a lot more doable because action begets action. Things only become more comfortable after we've already done them. So we learned so many cool techniques by slowly building up our skills. And I have to say, it's really fun at weddings now to show off our fancy turns and styles. But whatever this looks like for you as a highly sensitive person, whatever your new skill is or your new lifestyle habit that you want to incorporate into your life, taking those baby steps helps you feel ready and it helps you expand your comfort zone so that what was once scary suddenly becomes much more doable. After that, then you can start leveling up. So whatever you need to do to stretch yourself just a little bit, but not overload it, do that. Our nervous systems as highly sensitive people are very sensitive, to be a little bit redundant. They're very attuned. They're very acute. We sense more and we pick up more information from the world around us than other people do. So finding ways to stretch your unique nervous system as a highly sensitive person while you're still taking the action, while you're still trying new things, while you're stretching yourself just a little bit, that is the key to doing things, quote unquote, before you're ready. Now, the comfort part of readiness only comes from taking action and then taking it again and again and again. Practice makes progress, as the new saying goes, which I absolutely love. And once you're committed to learning, prepared enough to get started, and taking those small steps each time, suddenly you find that you've actually been ready all along. So just to wrap up, the idea of starting before you're ready has nothing to do with jumping in before your nervous system can actually handle it. What it does mean is starting before you're comfortable, doing it a little bit messy, and being willing to prepare and to commit to something in advance, knowing that it's probably not going to go super smoothly and it's not going to go exactly the way that you want. As you're going through the 5 stages of change, pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and evaluation, you will start to see this process coming to life. And there are 3 ways that I want you as a highly sensitive person to help yourself feel more ready, meaning committed and prepared, to take those actions you want to take to create the results in the life that you really want. Step 1 is to be open to learning and experimenting and committed to the process of maybe making mistakes and maybe failing. And step 2 is to determine how long you're going to prepare for something. So not continuously researching or learning, but actually deciding how much do I need to know to take that step. And then step 3 is to stretch yourself just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And I've given you a ton of strategies and a ton of baby steps you could do to start taking those little baby steps so that you can start to create the life of your dreams. Because you'll find over time, and I'm sure you've had this experience in small doses, that whatever you're doing in your life or your love or your business, those small steps over time are actually what creates the big results. Sometimes as highly sensitive people, we get this idea in our heads that we need to wait until we're inspired, and then we're just going to knock something out of the park the first time through. We just need the time to sit down and really handle it with full aplomb and confidence. And again, sometimes you can have confidence in yourself and your ability and your capability and your resourcefulness. But a lot of times, the confidence that you can do something well doesn't come until after you've practiced it a lot of times and gotten really messy with it and to finally doing it well. This is how we learn new skills. This is how we change anything in our lives. And what's waiting for you on the other side of this journey is the life and the business or the side gig or the project of your dreams. So you can actually create that vision that you started for yourself in the pre-contemplation phase. When you take these actions, when you follow through, when you stretch yourself a little bit, that's when you can evaluate and determine, have I made it? Do I need to make tweaks? So that's what I have for you today, HSP. Thank you for tuning into the Highly Sensitive Club. And at the moment, my course is currently closed. I don't have any workshops coming up because I'm leaving some breathing room to see what's coming up after this launch and after this course, but I do have one-on-one spots available. So if you're interested, go to stephanielynn.com and book a consultation call. You can see the buttons all over my website. Book a call. Have a conversation with me. Ask some questions. I would love, love, love to connect with you. And that is my favorite way to go about this coaching business, just to connect, to answer your questions, and to really build a relationship together, because that's what makes for a great coaching relationship. I hope you got a lot out of this episode today, and I can't wait to see you on next week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to stephanielynn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.